So today we're going to look at something called elapsed time. Basically, this is for your time clock at work, when you clock in, when you clock out, to keep track of how many hours you've worked. And most of you at this point probably do this on a computer. There's some sort of computerized clock in, clock out. But I've always thought it was been a good idea when I worked an hourly job to keep track of my hours on my own. That way I knew whether or not what my bosses were reporting I had worked matched what I say that I had worked. So the way we're going to do this, it is basically subtraction with a twist. You have to be able to keep track of the hours and minutes that you clock in and the hours and minutes that you clock out. The idea is that you're going to subtract the earlier time when you clocked in from the later time when you clocked out. Now, a lot of times that's pretty straightforward. You just do some basic subtraction and you're done. However, there are a few catches where, because of the way a clock works, once you hit noon and then you go on to the next hour, it's say 1 o'clock, the clock out time could actually be smaller than your clock in time. Like if you clocked in at 8 o'clock in the morning and clocked out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, how that actually works. But the basic idea right here, we need to figure out what the later time is and subtract from that the earlier time. Okay, so I'll leave this up here for the first couple so we kind of have a template to go by. But so we're going to calculate the elapsed time for someone who worked from 2:15 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. So the later time in the day is 10:30 p.m. 10:30 p.m. So that's 10:30 at night. And we're going to subtract from that the earlier time in the day, which is 2:15 p.m. So they clocked in pretty early in the afternoon, clocked out at night. This doesn't quite work like a grade school subtraction problem. You're not going to go digit by digit from the right to the left. We're going to subtract the minutes and then subtract the hours. So grab a calculator if you need it, but I'm going to subtract 15 minutes from 30 minutes. So that is 15 minutes, straightforward subtraction. Same thing in the hours column. I'm going to subtract 2 p.m. from 10 p.m., 8 hours. This person worked, if this is a job scenario, they worked 8 hours and 15 minutes. And we're done. All right, same scenario. I took away the template. So we're working from 6:45 a.m. to 12:56 p.m. Once you hit 12 o'clock, whether it's 12 o'clock noon or 12 o'clock midnight, your AM PM switches over. So they work from 6:45 in the morning until 12:56 in the afternoon. So the 12:56 is my later time in this scenario. So I'm going to start at 12:56, that's my later time, and I'm going to subtract 6:45. Again, we're not going to go digit by digit like you would in a regular subtraction problem. We're going to kind of try and treat the minutes like a column and then the hours like their own column. So I'm going to subtract 45 from 56, that's 11 minutes. And then again in the hours, 12 take away 6 hours and 11 minutes. And if you notice, I wrote the answer as hours and minutes, hours, minutes. But unfortunately, there are times when you can't subtract the way you normally would. What I mean by that, if you look at this scenario, you clock in at 1:45 in the afternoon, you clock out at 8:30. I've got to be able to subtract 45 minutes from 30 minutes. Well, that doesn't really work. That doesn't really work. Much like just a grade school subtraction problem, I can't subtract a bigger number from a smaller number. Now we're talking time, so there's no such thing as a negative here. I need to keep everything positive. So what I'm going to have to do, very similar to, like I said, a grade school problem, is I'm going to have to borrow. The way time works, every hour is equal to 60 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow an hour from the hours column, and that'll go from 8 down to 7. But when I bring that over into the minutes column, that's equivalent to 60 minutes. So I'm going to take those 60 minutes and add them on to the 30 that were already there. So instead of having 30 minutes in the minutes column, since I borrowed an hour, I'm going to add 60 to it. Now I've got 90 minutes in the minutes column. So when I go to subtract, I've got more than enough minutes to take 45 away from. So when I subtract 45 minutes from 90 minutes, I'm left with 45 minutes. Just a coincidence that they're the same. Now over here in the hours column, I can subtract 7 minus 1. 6 hours, 45 minutes. You can borrow in a time subtraction problem. You just can't borrow the same way. Here in this one, we've got a little bit different situation where if we clock in at 10:20 in the morning and we clock out at 3:30 in the afternoon, there's going to be an extra little thing that we kind of have to work with when you cross that 12 o'clock line. So our later time, later in the day, our later time is actually smaller than our earlier time, but we're going to set it up the same way we've done in these past couple of problems. The later time is going to go on top. The earlier time is going to go on bottom. And we're going to run into a problem here when we go to subtract 10 from 3. We can't do that. So what we kind of have to think about is military time. Military time is based on 24 hours in a day. It's a little bit different than our clocks. So basically what happens, we're going to increase our hours by 12. It's basically adding another 12 hours to it so you can do the subtraction. So instead of having 3 as our hours, I'm going to add 12 to that and bump it up to 15. It's kind of weird if you've never seen it before, but the idea is like if you were to look at military time, if they were to say 1,700 hours, that's actually 5 o'clock at night, and you can get back to that by subtracting 12. Okay? It's kind of weird, but the idea is for your afternoon hours, you can add 12, and then the arithmetic's a little bit easier. So what we have here in the minutes column, I've got 10 minutes, 30 minus 20, and in my hours column, 15 minus 10, 5 hours and 10 minutes. All right, for your assignment tonight, I'd like you to try these 3 problems. Set them up, work them out, take a picture, submit it in Google Classroom.